morning. I'm Mike Donaldson, and this is episode 27 of the All Things Loudoun podcast, where each episode we share with you the best that Loudoun County has to offer. Joining us on today's show is Vanessa Lindgren, a certified hypnotherapist since 1994. Vanessa works with the Integrative Family Medical Center in Leesburg, and her website is modernhypnosisworks.com. Vanessa actually started hypnotizing her friends at school at the age of 14, which I want to hear more about, and 4 years later is still at it. She's trained in neuro-linguistic programming and Ericksonian metaphoric techniques. Vanessa keeps up to date with any new studies on the subject of modern hypnosis as well. Vanessa's honored and privileged to be one of the very few hypnotherapists nationwide working directly in a medical doctor's office. Vanessa's partner, Dr. Martha Callahan of the Integrative Family Medicine Center, believes greatly in the power of the mind, body, medicine, refers many of her patients to Vanessa, who she feels hypnosis would be beneficial. Vanessa, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mike. Nice to talk to you. That was a wonderful intro. I just need to correct one small thing.
Sure.
I am extraordinarily privileged to work out of Dr. Martha Callahan's office. Mm-hmm. But she has actually changed the name to Five Stones Healing Arts and Wellness Center.
Gotcha.
And
okay.
That is important to know, because if someone were to Google her, they would not find the old website. She's changed it. Five Stones Healing Arts and Wellness Center. And as you mentioned, I'm extraordinarily privileged. I run my own business. I do not work for Dr. Callahan, but I work predominantly out of her office because she believes so deeply in mind-body medicine and how the mind can affect the body. And I do, in fact, very often see some of her patients who she's done everything she can for physically, and she knows that an issue may be subconsciously driven. So I'm very lucky to work. I do work from my home also in Western Loudoun, and I do Skype sessions all over the world.
Awesome. Tell us your connection with Loudoun. How did you end up in here? Because I sense a little bit of an accent in your voice.
I did. Well, I'm an English transplant and moved to America nearly 37 years ago, and then found my way to Loudoun through an old English girlfriend who was here taking very hardcore riding lessons, and ultimately met my present husband. And I live in Western Loudoun. I'm between Upperville and Bluemont, but closer to Bluemont. And that's how I ended up here. I've been here, I believe, in Loudoun 33 years now.
Wow.
And as for Dr. Callahan, it was a long story. It was one of those meant-to-be things. I was practicing just out of my home office and on Skype, and I met somebody who worked at her office who said, I think that you could be a very good fit. So I did a free talk to some of her patients one evening on hypnosis, and it went so well. I think nearly every one of them booked a session with me, and she approached me to see if I'd like to work out of her office, which of course I jumped at.
Yes.
And I do work, many other doctors refer me. I work alongside with a number of medical doctors and dentists and psychotherapists who feel sometimes hypnosis will be an additional plus for their patients. So that's how that came to be. I think I've been there 8 years now with Dr. Callahan's.
All right, Vanessa, let's talk about hypnosis, because I know most people have some sort of humorous video that they've seen from a stage performance of hypnosis. But tell us more about it, since that's like probably a misconception people have is what hypnosis is. So how do you get into it? What's the training? What's the background?
Well, first, I have to start off by saying I have huge respect for a good stage hypnotist. They actually have to be extraordinarily good at what they do. And I've goofed around with it. I've taken some training in it, but it's purely a hobby. What we do clinically is completely different. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions about hypnosis is that the hypnotherapist is going to be in control of their mind, and that they're going to be a zombie, zonked out, unconscious, asleep, and, delving all their dirty secrets. It just is not like that at all. It's extraordinarily relaxing, and it's simply the hypnotherapist helping them to tap into their subconscious mind. And the training to do that obviously is extensive to get to be to the point where we are able to do that. But it is not a knocked out, unconscious, woo-woo state at all. It's simply focused awareness. We're basically bypassing that chattering, critical conscious mind and going straight to the subconscious, where we do any number of things. But predominantly, we are trying to release negative beliefs, old embedded messages that may have gotten stuck and are now driving negative behaviors, whether it be anxiety, addiction, fears, phobias, any number of things. Mike, I have a good analogy for you, if you'll allow me.
Sure.
I like to keep things simple. So I often tell my clients, if you were to imagine a huge mansion with hundreds of rooms, lovely, they're all lovely rooms. There's one beautiful room in that mansion, and that mansion, that one room with all these hundreds of rooms is the conscious mind, just that one room. The rest of the rooms are the subconscious mind. So that gives a little bit of an insight of how profound it is when we can tap into the subconscious, how we can reframe old embedded negative beliefs, fears, and so forth, because the conscious mind can only hold so much. Everything coming at us daily, we would go insane if everything was just held in the conscious. So the subconscious stores it.
Well, I think if your subconscious mind was as active as your conscious mind, your brain would be overloaded with messages about the heart pumping, muscles doing certain things, constantly having to hear what it takes to walk. You know, you have to have that filtered out, or you wouldn't be able to function.
And some people say that, I mean, I'm not a doctor to diagnose, but some people say that is a part of insanity, is when the conscious mind is just simply holding too much. And it certainly is a huge driver of anxiety and stress when we can't switch that off. And that's where hypnosis is extraordinarily helpful, to help reframe and calm down and switch that constant chattering mind off. So I think that would be the main thing I would want to say. To simplify, hypnosis is simply accessing the subconscious mind, where everything lies, everything you've heard, smelt, felt, everything, it's all in there. And if we can go in there and reframe it and pull out the negative and get rid of these very often self-sabotaging belief systems and things we've heard when we were young, right, wrong, or indifferent, and reframe them, this is where the healing comes from.
What are the common symptoms or problems that people come to you that you can help them solve?
Oh my gosh, the list could go on and on and on, but I'll try and, I think the thing I get called for the very most is anxiety and stress. It's at an all-time epidemic, all age groups, both genders. It's the last couple of years I've never seen so many clients for this, but it can be absolutely anything, Mike. Insomnia is a very big one. Headaches.
Say someone has a phobia of snakes or spiders. I would assume in your many years in practice that you've encountered at least one person with that type of phobia.
Yes, actually, spider is the number one.
Is the number one? But they're so small. They're so easy to smash.
Well, let me tell you this: phobias do not follow logic.
Right.
So knowing that, Yeah, phobia. You'd be amazed. There are many people with a phobia of mayonnaise. People can have some very strange phobias, and usually we can backtrack to where it started, which is always the goal, to find the core of something, so that we can reframe it without re-traumatizing a person. The goal is never to re-traumatize. I don't want to take somebody back and have a thought with the spider on their head and have them freaking out. So we'd use what's called disassociative techniques so that we can access that emotion and fear without actually delving right back into the trauma. And it would be a book to explain how we do that. But, well, of course, weight loss is a huge one. Smoking, of course. I do a lot of medical hypnosis for irritable bowel syndrome and so forth. Once a doctor has done everything they can, they often get sent to a hypnotherapist to see if it's an emotionally driven illness, which many things can be. Public speaking is huge. We're in an area with so many businesses, and I have a ton of clients who will turn down excellent jobs or promotions because they are terrified of the presentations that they're going to need to make. Exam anxiety, test anxiety, in adults, children. Confidence is a huge one. Sports performance. I work with a lot of people in sales who suddenly lose their confidence, and they're, you know that feeling, that cold calling, and they come to me to help increase their confidence and sales performance. It just, the list goes on and on and on. But I would say insomnia, anxiety, stress, weight, cravings, binge eating, those are probably among the top ones. In sports around here, a lot of people just either hobby sports or professionals. I see a lot of professional sports people, golfing, tennis, you name it.
What about drug and alcohol addiction? Because I know there can be some physical
absolutely
cravings within the body for the drug or alcohol.
I work a lot with that, and I have, my friends get bored of hearing me say this, but I have a quote that sometimes I say, and it's important: hypnosis as well as, not instead of. And I have seen unbelievable turnarounds with addicts with just hypnosis, but I usually want to know that they are in a support group, seeing a medical doctor if they're in a place where they need to be withdrawn slowly, because that can be extremely dangerous. And that, of course, includes the pills. I actually see more people for pill addiction than any other addiction. That's an epidemic, and it's sort of the dirty little secret with both genders, but particularly women. And so I will usually ask them to make sure they're working alongside a doctor and are in some other type of support program. But having said that, hypnosis and another procedure I use called EFT tapping is remarkable for helping with cravings and boosting that confidence and ridding. Most addicts live in a great deal of shame and guilt, and they're not only addicted physically, but then they'll go on a binge, and then their guilt and their shame will be absolutely overwhelming. They then can't cope with those feelings, and that drives them to use more. So an addiction often is based in insecurity, lack of confidence, and self-medicating, as so many of us know. And that ties in often to insomnia. It all ties back in. So it's always such a pleasure for me to see someone make a profound turnaround who really is. Well, let me put it this way. We hypnotherapists, we are not usually the first line of defense. some people grew up believing in hypnosis and know about it from a young age. But for the most part, they're pretty desperate by the time they get to us. They've tried just about everything else, and then they start wondering, or perhaps a physician or friend recommends, you know what, maybe your subconscious is holding you back. Maybe something's going on there. So we are very used to seeing people in a fairly desperate state. And honestly, I love that challenge. Not that I would want anyone to be feeling desperate. I like the challenge. I don't want the easy cases. So it's a fascinating field. And as you mentioned, I started at 14. Get back to that because I did want to hear.
Yeah,
it is kind of a fun story. As you know, I grew up in England and I was shipped off to English boarding school in the middle of nowhere. It was an all-girls school, and I would pretty much do anything to avoid homework. There was an extensive library, and I started looking up hypnosis and mesmerism because I'd heard a rumor from my sister that we had an ancestor who was a famous mesmerist in France. So I got very interested in it and started reading up. And then I started practicing on my friends at school. And obviously it was sloppy and self-taught and untrained, but I had a gift for it. And I did this for quite a long time and had a lot of fun, and my friends had a lot of fun, until I was called up by the headmaster and said, well, Vanessa, you're very charming, but I'm afraid we're going to need to let you go. And I was expelled. And my mother was able to talk him into letting me back after skipping one full semester if I promised not to perform any hypnosis. And I did fulfill that promise. But as soon as I left that school, I was right back at it. And I've been doing it ever since. So,
if you start off being self-taught, how does someone get professional training?
Well, my original certification was in 94, I believe. What's that, 22, 23 years coming up on, in Virginia Beach at the Edgar Cayce Foundation. With a wonderful, wonderful school. At that time, they were called the Eastern Institute of Hypnotherapy or Hypnotherapists. They've since changed their name to, I believe it's American Holistic University. But I'm very proud to say I started with them, and I have training through many, many, many people all over the world. But they were my initial certification. I went on to get my master's through them. And then a delicate topic, I got what's known as a DCH, Doctor of Clinical Hypnosis, which was hardcore, took me 5 years to get. And I wrote, I think, an awesome paper on fibromyalgia and the use of hypnosis for fibromyalgia. And here's the truth, Mike. It is legal in Virginia for me to say Doctor of Clinical Hypnosis, but the actual hypnosis boards do not recognize this title. I'm licensed under the Alternative American Medical Association for my doctorate, so I don't actually have it on my website, and it's not on my cards, but it probably should be because it is legal in Virginia. But I am a doctor of clinical hypnosis. You're just not going to see it on my website for that reason.
Well, I think it's important for people to know that you have extensive training. And
Absolutely. And that particular title was very, very intense training of what we call regression, where we go back in time. And not to scare any of your listeners, but there may be some who believe in past lives, and I am trained in that. And I don't really advertise it that much, but I certainly have a number of clients who would like to explore that. But for those of you that do not believe in that, please don't be frightened off by hypnosis in any way.
Well, I think if there was a book of knowledge, like a phone book size book, I would think that humans were probably on page like 4 of that book, that there's so much out there that we just don't know or don't understand. We don't even know where the universe ends, or if it ends, or anything that's beyond the small scope of our atmosphere on Earth here, and a few satellites whizzing through space. We really don't know that much.
And that's why I think it's so important for us to keep an open mind and to continue to study. I study to this day. I'm on a number of amazing hypnosis forums worldwide, and I actually run one myself, which is the use of EFT tapping combined with hypnosis, which is one of my specialties. And we talk about this a lot, that we should never stop learning, perfecting techniques, or helping newcomers. I do a lot of that. I learn from people better than myself, and I love to help people who are new to the field. That gives me a tremendous amount of pleasure, because we have to share, and if we think we know it all, we have problems. So I love that you say that. We have to keep a very open mind. But hypnosis itself is simply contacting that subconscious mind. Sessions are extremely relaxing. People are awake. Their eyes may be closed, but they're awake and alert, and they're on completely they're in their own control. They can get up and walk out at any time. And it isn't a question of the hypnotherapist controlling them or brainwashing them. We couldn't, even if we wanted to. It just doesn't work that way.
You have to be a willing participant. Nobody's going to...
You have to be a willing participant, and you have to have some belief. You may not believe in hypnosis or know much about it, but you have to have a basic belief that there are other parts of the mind that are storing information and maybe have twisted information, and that they can be reframed, changed, and if you like, updated. So something from a little kid that may have gotten stuck, some negative thing, even if not maliciously intended, gets stuck. It can get twisted, and it can cause all kinds of problems. So if you like, we could think of it as updating the data, but the subconscious is our friend. It has a soul. It has a heart, if you like. It's not just a computer. It has feeling, it has heart, it has knowledge, and it wants to help us. And sometimes we just need to go in there and chat to it. And for example, with an autoimmune disorder, we can go in and say, thank you so very much. You're releasing way too much histamine for allergies because you believe you're trying to protect. But let me give you some new information here. You're actually hindering rather than helping. Let's calm that down. Let's calm the adrenal glands down for panic disorder. We can actually have the subconscious speak physically to parts of the body. And I have a whole technique I use where I have people visualize like a faucet or a tap with a liquid coming out. That liquid, in this case, may be adrenaline, and how I train their mind to literally turn the tap to the almost off position, not completely off, because we must have a flight and fight response for an emergency. But if we can learn to have that a trickle instead of a flood, we can learn to control that adrenaline and flow, and thereby retrain the brain, if you like, to retrain the body, so that they're not in this constant state of just on the edge of their seat all the time. So a lot can be done physically through the mind. I hope what I'm saying, I hope I'm being clear.
No, that makes sense to me. Hey, Vanessa, tell us about neuro-linguistic programming.
Neuro-linguistic program is a very, very fancy word for how we put words together. And other hypnotists listening to this would give you long spiels of all kinds of things. But to keep it very simple, the way we put words together is neuro-linguistic programming. So I'm going to give you a crazy, silly example of something I like to say with my weight loss clients. And you may have to think about this for a second. Instead of saying losing weight, which, of course, to the conscious mind sounds wonderful, right? Oh, we want to lose weight. That's what we consciously think is a positive thing. Well, the subconscious mind does really not like the word loss. So I reframe that NLP into gaining slimness. Now, I know you have to think about that for a second. That is an entirely different take on how the subconscious sees wording. So basically, in a nutshell, it's the way that we put words together and knowing how to do it and at exactly the right time under hypnosis. We have to have our client reach a certain state, depth of hypnosis, and then we know that through our training of when to start inserting that. And some people only use NLP. I like to use many, many different techniques. Metaphorical, which you mentioned earlier, Ericksonian metaphorical techniques. He was Milton Erickson was a very famous psychotherapist or psychologist or both who really was extremely instrumental in bringing hypnosis to the modern forefront. And he used a lot of metaphors, and that is a wonderful way to go because it's less threatening and we can make changes without necessarily taking someone back into a traumatic situation. I can give you a little example, Mike, if you'd like on that. Yeah. Well, often I ask my clients to just close their eyes. This isn't hypnosis, by the way. And I just ask them to picture a roof, the roof of a house. And to visualize that roof and the gutter, the gutter where the rain would come down. So every time it rains, the rain hits that gutter and it comes down the drain pipe. So yeah, every time it rains, it hits that gutter and it comes down the drain pipe because that's how it's geared to go. And Mike, if you look underneath the drain pipe, grass, gravel, even concrete, I wonder if you've noticed, you will see a groove begin to form, even on concrete. That is really no different from our brain. So if you metaphorically take that rain as the problem, the struggle, whatever it is, hits the gutter, it goes down the drain pipe, because that's the way it's now conditioned to go. And it will continue to make that groove deeper and deeper and deeper. It doesn't know where else to go. So metaphorically, if you were to think of that drain pipe as a neural pathway in the brain, what if we metaphorically add more drain pipes? Does that make sense? The rain, the problem, the issue, does not have to keep making that groove deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. It can be dispersed, reframed, and has somewhere else to go and can be remanaged. So that's an example of a metaphor where we don't directly go in and traumatize somebody with something that may be horrendous to remember. We have to be so careful of false memories, especially when it comes to any kind of physical abuse. Whether they are real or not, we have to be, all hypnotherapists, we have to be extraordinarily careful not to lead someone into a false memory, or if it's real memory, to re-traumatize them. So I hope that explains that well. But again, the client is always in control, and it's relaxing. It's not woo-woo. You're not unconscious. You're not asleep. You're just relaxed. It's very deep relaxation with a slightly altered awareness, and very suggestible. Yes, very suggestible to those positive suggestions that hypnotherapist will add in at the right moments. Heightened imagination, if you like.
Hey folks, we're listening to Vanessa Lindgren of modernhypnosisworks.com. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Vanessa's going to give us some case studies and some other interesting information, but I do want to hear the case study, so stay with us. We'll be back in about a minute and a half.
You're listening to the All Things Loudoun podcast.
Everybody, I want to announce a new show sponsor, GovX. And if you're not familiar with GovX, they offer discounts to government employees and military and former military. You can save up to 65% on over 60,000 products, 300 different brands, and 3,000 different events, shows, games, and more. They offer such brands as Spy Eyewear, Life Proof, 511 Gear, Hylete Workout Gear, Vertex, Ray-Bans, and so on. And GovX is created to provide benefits and savings to those that serve our country, both past and present. And some of the people that are eligible for GovX membership, which costs nothing, is active duty military, veterans, retired military, military reserve, military spouses and children, also first responders, fire, police, as well as school teachers. And in this area, just outside of DC, I know there are probably thousands and thousands of people that would qualify that are involved in Homeland Security or the military or school teachers. So if you yourself or a spouse or a friend falls within those categories, please visit our webpage, www.atloudon.com. Click on the GovX banner at the top and register. And it's a great way to support the show as well as get some discounts on some great products.
This is the All Things Loudoun podcast.
All right, everybody, we're back with Vanessa Lindgren of modernhypnosisworks.com, and you can also find her on Facebook by the same name. Vanessa, before we get into the case studies, let's make sure we get a better description, and we were talking during the break of this, on EFT tapping. And when you say tapping, what does tapping even mean?
Well, I'm absolutely in love with EFT tapping. I'll tell you what it means. It stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. And what it essentially is tapping on specific meridian points of the body, not unlike acupuncture, although it is known as acupressure of the mind. So it looks and sounds silly, but what we do is we pull up an emotion, and we work on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being nothing, 10 being very high, whether it's a fear, anger, phobia, addiction, craving, whatever it may be. We pull up that emotion and try not to intellectualize it or analyze it. Just try and really get in touch with the physical emotion of that. We start tapping on these specific meridian points with our fingers, and we acknowledge in our mind and our body, we acknowledge the uncomfortableness of that fear or feeling or emotion. We tap, starting on the negative, we tap through to the positive, releasing and discharging the energy behind it, also known as energy physiology. And the beauty of it is, Mike, is it's very, very easy to learn, and you can do it anywhere. Anyone can learn it quite quickly. They can be maybe before they have to go and do a public talk, or right before an exam. They can go and do a few minutes, a few rounds of tapping on themselves and release that negative charge. But it does more than that. It actually changes the brain. It changes the way the brain sees something. So it isn't just about those meridian points and the energy points. It's actually reframing the way the brain sees an issue. So I'm absolutely in love with it. I did not invent it, but I'm a little bit of a pioneer in this area for using both. I have certainly many hypnotherapist friends in Virginia that use both. But I won't go into details, but I have some very amazing techniques I've come up with and how I combine them, where I will start tapping with someone and tap them straight into hypnosis. And it's just super powerful.
Well, it seems like a technique that people can take with them after, once they've been trained on how to do it.
That's the beauty of it. So when I do hypnosis, I record my sessions, and I'm generous with that because it does cut down for clients on how many sessions they need to book. and I will send them their private recording the following day in an MP3 format for them to listen to repetitively. So those suggestions can go very, very deeply. And the beauty of the tapping, though, is that they can do it instantly and on their own. And I do actually teach EFT tapping at the Five Stones Healing Wellness Center occasionally. They book up really fast. But if anyone's interested, they're either free or extremely inexpensive, and I do it because I love it. Sometimes on a Saturday, I'll just go and teach tapping to whoever is interested. And that is not booked through me. It's booked straight through Dr. Callahan's office. But it's a wonderful thing to teach yourself and know how to do. And I tap every day. I tap before every session to clear any negativity, to make sure I'm fresh and clear with clean and pure intentions for each and every client that I see, that I do not carry any negativity from one client to the next. So I'm in love with it, but I'm also in love with hypnosis. So there we go.
Well, both sound very interesting. I should have done some. See, I wasn't properly prepared for the podcast today because I didn't prepare myself in the right way, probably.
That's okay. Now you know.
I just had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That was my preparation.
Well, it sounds to me, Mike, that you're going to have to come in and see me one of these days.
That's I might have to.
I'll give you a free session so that when you describe it to other people, you're very clear on. Yeah, absolutely. I would be honored to do that for you.
Well, let's get into the case studies because you had mentioned a little bit about them and they sound very interesting. So let's expand on the case studies.
Everybody always loves case studies, case stories. And of course, I'm extraordinarily careful to keep complete and total privacy with any and all clients. So I'm not going to give you any real names here, but I'm going to start with, I had to think about this because I thought you might ask me. And of course, I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of mind-blowing case studies and transformations. But I think one that really stands out to me is something I work with a lot, which is the fear of flying, airplane phobia. And I just particularly love this story of how the mind can really, really twist something and cause a phobia. Here we go. So I had a businessman come to see me for a fear of flying and obviously getting tremendously in the way of his life. And we started with tapping and then tapped into hypnosis. But during the tapping, I asked him to focus on his feeling and his phobia and feel the fear. And then off we go, tapping on the negative, releasing the negative charge. And then I have them put their hands down and I ask them, did any particular thought or feeling come to you while we were doing that round of tapping? And by the way, again, working on a scale of 0 to 10, he was at a 10. And he said, yes. Well, we'd done a number of rounds of tapping. And he said, yes, I did. I can't believe this came to my mind. And I asked him, and he said he remembered being a little boy and being outside playing with his dad, and his dad was teaching him how to fly a kite. And there they were out in the yard flying the kite, and he said he was pretty clumsy at it. He did not do it well. And his father got a little frustrated, not mean, but frustrated, and said to him, no, that's not how you do it. It needs to go way high in the sky like a plane. Now, his subconscious, I know it sounds strange, but this is how phobias can work, or negative belief system. His mind had translated that. The thought of planes, the word plane, had translated in his mind as a negative, frightening thing where he was embarrassed, he was humiliated, he felt that he was not worthy, that his dad was displeased with him, and it was a very upsetting thing for him. And he said he had forgotten all about it. He was surprised that this memory came up, but it did. And therefore, we were able to find the core of the issue. And then I tapped into hypnosis, and under hypnosis was able to reframe that entire experience. just simple things really at the subconscious level, that he was just a little boy. His father was trying to have fun with him. He's now a grown-up, and that information is now completely out of date. And of course, I'm simplifying many other techniques. But this is how a simple negative thing can translate physically and mentally. So I love that particular story. And by the way, he only had one session with me and listened to his recording on his flights and has had no problem ever since. And we love that. One session is enough, and that's what I shoot for. Of course, often we need more sessions, sometimes 3 to 5, but I have many people with one session and their recording who just do phenomenally. Now, this one is a common one. Another case that I particularly loved was a young woman came to me with gaining slimness, wanting weight loss. I believe she was in her late 30s. Anyway, we went back, we did some tapping, we did some hypnosis, and a particular memory came to her. And that was when she was about 17. She had been living with her sister and her brother-in-law very happily. They were basically surrogate parents, if you like. And very unfortunately, she started drinking one evening when her sister was at work and got drunk with her brother-in-law, who took advantage of her. And we could call it rape because she was underage. But in her mind, she considered that she was a completely willing participant and went into it knowingly. So I would consider that rape and being taken advantage of, but her mind did not see it that way. Her mind felt very, very guilty that she had actually had a crush on her brother-in-law, and a few drinks later, actually, in her opinion, she seduced him. Well, we go into deep, deep hypnosis, and I ask her a lot of questions, and we want to discharge things and memories. And she starts crying, and she says, Vanessa, I feel so guilty. I feel so disgusting. And I said, well, to so-and-so, her name, I said, how does this affect your weight today? Is there a correlation? Is there something I need to know? Is something we need to know? And she said, yes, I never, ever want to be sexy or pretty again. There you have it. We got to the core. Once she was able to understand that her subconscious had translated this horrible guilt and shame, even though we could consider this rape, her mind did not. So her mind was trying to keep her safe, and that was telling her, if I stay pudgy, not that being pudgy isn't very, very sexy and lovely to a lot of men. Many men actually prefer that. But in her mind, that's what we're always talking about as a client's particular belief system. Once that was brought up, I was able to reframe it with her, release the guilt and the shame. Off came the weight, started to drop off extremely quickly. I love that story.
Like a self-defense mechanism from her brain to prevent her from being in that position again.
Exactly. Nothing she was conscious of. Consciously, she'd been on diet, so, I want to lose weight, and what's stopping me? Remember, the conscious is not what we're working with. The conscious is irrelevant to me and what I do. We only want to know what that subconscious has in there. That is the whole nature of the game. So it is irrelevant what her conscious mind wanted or thought. What was relevant was how her subconscious thought, again, being a friend, thought it was trying to protect her.
It's like you said earlier, the subconscious has old programming that overrides the conscious programming, saying we want to lose weight. It's like, no, we were told long ago we want to gain weight, and that's the order we're sticking with.
That's exactly. You've got it, Mike. You get this stuff. You get this stuff. So that's a very good example of Not that I don't have hundreds of examples of massive weight loss, but I just particularly like that one because it explains how the subconscious, as our friend, is trying to protect us and can in fact be leading us down a wrong path, and here is an NLP, the wrong fork in the road. Notice the word fork. So, and let's see, I've got one more for you.
Let's do one more.
Here's one more on the lighter side, just to show that hypnosis can be very helpful for all sorts of things. I love forensic hypnosis, and I would work for the police. I have been asked to help, although it is not admissible in court, at least not in Virginia, not in most states. And the reason I don't do it is I don't want to get stuck in court, being questioned to death about hypnosis in the wrong way. But sorry, I got off on a tangent there. But it got me thinking about, this is quite amusing. I have many couples who are divorcing. This has happened more than once, who are at a race to the finish line, and neither one of them can remember the code to their safe. And I've had it 3 times where I've had married couples who are separating and divorcing call me because they can't remember the combination to the safe or whatever, and they don't know that their spouse has also called me, which puts me in an ethical dilemma. But here's a lovely one which was not an ethical dilemma, and this was actually earlier this year. An absolutely charming woman came to me in her 70s, having lost her wedding ring, and she was absolutely distraught. And I do work with many people who've lost items or trying to remember the combinations to things. But this was a wonderful story. She came to me and didn't have a tremendous amount of belief, but on the other hand, thought, what do I have to lose? She actually came to my home because she lived closer to me in Western Loudoun. We had a session and I recorded it. And during the session, I told her, if a memory does not come up straight away, I don't want you to worry. I want you to continue to listen to your recording and the memory will come. Well, so usually I send my recording the following day, which is what I plan to do, just because I'm busy and can't get it all done. Well, I get on with my day. I see some other clients, and I get an email from her late that afternoon, just jumping for joy email. Vanessa, you're not going to believe it. I walked into the house, and my mind, I have no idea why, because she'd looked everywhere for months. I don't know why, but my mind told me to go to the freezer. So she said, this is weird. Why would I go to the freezer? But I'm going to the freezer. So she opened up her freezer and she saw a meatloaf that she had made and frozen, and it was wrapped tightly in tin foil. And her mind, her subconscious driven mind, told her conscious mind, open that meatloaf. So she took it out of the freezer. She unwrapped the foil from the meatloaf, and there was her wedding ring. It wasn't in the meatloaf. She had actually put it to the side and, without thinking, had put the ring on the edge, and it got wrapped up into the foil with the meatloaf. And so we didn't even need her to listen to her recording. And she just couldn't believe it. And then I got an email from her husband that night, who did not believe in hypnosis, saying, well, my goodness, young lady, well, little do they know that I'm nearly 58. I am absolutely stunned. And they were very, very pleased, and he wanted to send me a gift, which I declined. But he just could not believe that so quickly the subconscious would find that ring for her. So that's a fun story. And we work with some very heavy things, very upsetting things, very tough things. So it's always wonderful to hear and work with these. That is a serious thing, to lose your treasured ring, but at the same time on a lighter note. And that's one of my most fun stories ever, I think.
Vanessa, how often do you get people call you and say, the first thing they say to you is, you're not going to believe this? And then you I'm sure you laugh and say, I hear that all the time.
I do hear it all the time, Mike, and I do not mean to sound boastful. I am now touting hypnosis in general. Good hypnosis. We hear it all the time. We do have an occasional session that doesn't go so well, but that's very rare, and it's usually because they're not giving it a chance, and I just say, give it a chance, give it a chance. But I literally every day get people contacting me by email or text saying, oh my gosh, Vanessa, I can't believe it. I just can't believe it. I left your office and I felt great. I felt relaxed, but I wasn't really sure. And I just cannot believe the shifts that are taking place. They're stunned. And I say, that's your subconscious mind at work. Don't analyze it. Don't intellectualize it. Just let your subconscious mind do the work. And of course, we all love that. And I'd like to say it's me, and I'm well trained, and I'm very experienced, and I won't deny that. But that is the beauty of good hypnosis. Hypnosis does the work. Your subconscious mind does the work. I'm just an extraordinarily well-trained coach and guide. It's all within you, all within the client.
All right, Vanessa, share with us an insider secret or misconception about your profession. I know we've covered a few of them, but maybe you could just restate those or give us a new one.
I think the very, very important is to restate the biggest misconception about hypnosis is that somebody is going to be in a zombie, knocked out, altered, well, they are in a somewhat altered state, but that the hypnotherapist has control on them. I think that is the biggest misconception, is that they're going to be clucking like a chicken and being asked, terrible secrets that they don't want divulged. No one will say or do anything against their moral code under hypnosis. And I think that is absolutely the most important thing, is to remember it's relaxing and nobody is in control of your mind at all. That I cannot state fully enough.
That's good to know, because I think that's certainly a misconception people have, is that, I'm going to embarrass myself, or, something that I don't want to talk about, we talk about.
That's right. And an ethical hypnotherapist will, first of all, not even ask those kind of questions. They're not usually relevant. And not only by law, but ethically, we can never discuss a client, even if we run into them at a cocktail party and we know them well. You would never say, oh, how are you? Great. How are you since your session? We keep our mouths shut. And so that I can't state firmly enough, that it is not mind control. There's completely nothing to do with that.
All right, well, that's good to know.
And I think, what was it? What else was it you asked me, Mike?
Let's any charities or any groups, who is it that you're always jumping at the bit to help out in the area, as far as charitable groups or groups that are doing good works?
Well, I'm a dog lover. I'm an animal lover. So really, any charity with children, abused women, dogs. If somebody, specifically auctions, when people are fundraising, if they approach me for a free session for the money to go to that charity. I mean, I certainly don't say no to other charities, but my heart does lie with children, abused women, and animals. And I also try, I don't try, I do. Once a month, I will take on one new client free of charge. And I will work with them through to the finish line. So I won't just do one session. Whether it's one session or 5 sessions, I'll see them through until they're doing really, really well. And then I will go to whoever's on my waiting list. So I don't do sliding scale, but I will work with one client per month, completely free all the way through to the finish line. I do have a bit of a waiting list, but and I have been known to do barter occasionally. I don't really do that very often, but I have done it. And so I try and give back. And also the 5 stones Healing Arts and Wellness with Dr. Callahan. That is a foundation. Her medical practice isn't, but she runs this foundation. And when I teach my tapping classes there on the occasional Saturday, I try to do that either free or at a very, very tiny charge. And so that money goes straight back into that foundation. So wherever I can, Mike.
Well, those are all great causes, and I'm glad to see you supporting the community as well.
Yes, I'm not saying there aren't others that aren't important to me, but those jump out at me first of all.
All right, Vanessa, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, the best way is through my website. And, I live in Western Loudoun, but the office I work in is in Leesburg. The road that runs between the old courthouse in Leesburg down to Walmart called Edwards Ferry. And we are really near the courthouse. So it's Edwards Ferry, but very near Old Town. And my website is, I'll say it, then I'll spell it, is Modern Hypnosis Works. Modern, MODERN, Hypnosis Works, WORKS, modernhypnosisworks.com. And if you go there, you'll see a video of me. You can hear my voice, see what I look like. And I also have a professional Facebook page there that you can link straight to. And that Facebook page is kind of what I use as a newsletter. And I try and update it with really cool articles, videos, and I have been known to post free audios on. I do sell some audios on my website for anxiety, public speaking, physical pain. I think I have 5. So keep your eye out, because every now and again I'll just put one up there as a gift. And also, you'll see a Skype logo there, because I work with people who have a phobia of leaving their house or apartment, or who have DUIs, or are down on their luck and have no car. So there is no difference with Skype. As long as they have a webcam, the sessions are just as effective. And I want to remind people that is absolutely an alternative if they're traveling on vacation or for any number of reasons disabled. They can still work with me very effectively on Skype. And they will still be recorded, and I still do give them that complimentary recording. Okay.
Vanessa, this has been great fun for me. I really enjoyed meeting you and hearing about your background and your skills and the services you offer the community.
Oh, well, I'm so honored, Mike. This has been a blast for me, too. And I think you can hear that. I live and breathe hypnosis. I'm extremely passionate about this and the tapping. And I welcome your listeners to feel free to, they may have hundreds of questions, to look up my website, email me or text me. My phone number's on there. And I'm always happy to talk about hypnosis. My phone and email consultations are completely free. And welcome any and all questions. And Mike, I'd like to offer you at some point, if there's anything you'd like to work on, even if it's a better tennis game. I don't know what your hobbies are. I just threw that one out there. I would to thank you for this wonderful privilege. I would offer you a free session at any point you would like.
Well, I'd love to take you up on that. I think it'd be a great follow-up to the podcast to do a follow-up show or follow-up article on the experience.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Mike. I've had so much fun with you.
That's been great fun, too. Thanks, Vanessa.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.
You've been listening to the All Things Loudoun podcast. Find us on the web at www.atloudon.com/podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have a guest suggestion, please email us at admin@atloudon.com. Copyright 2016, Legion 571, all rights reserved. Music licensed through BMI.